Hey everyone, my name is Brittany Lewis. I am a professional artist, a graphic designer, and a tarot deck enthusiast. And Sundays is the day that I set aside time to work on my dream project, the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. So I'm super happy to have you here. We're back at it again. I think this is like the 15th or 16th episode of Paint With Me Live, something like that. So I'm super excited to be here. It's always my favorite time of the week. And I certainly hope that you all had a great week as well. So before we get into it, before we get into what we're going to get into, do me a huge favor. And if you like this live stream, if you find something valuable about this live stream, if you want other people to be able to access this live stream, please hit the thumbs up button. That helps me out a great deal. Other ways that you can support myself as well as this project, the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, is by visiting my website and making a purchase, or you can sign up for the newsletter. You can join the wait list. There's so many things to learn about me as an artist, learn about the things that I do, all sorts of things. And that'll be found on my website, blewisarts.com. And the links for everything will be in the description. So, a little bit of housekeeping. We do this every Sunday. Again, Sundays is the day that I work on the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. So the Cosmic Gateways Tarot is a project that I started in 2019. It is a dream project. It took me many years to work up to actually starting this project. And we've been at it for almost 5 years now. It'll be 5 years in November. And this is just the time that I set aside time to work on that particular project. Now, where we left off last week was we were working on the Two of Wands. The first, this is just the third episode of the Two of Wands. The very first episode, I worked on some sketching and things like that. We decided where we wanted to put the wands on the table. Last week's episode, we did some flats, which are just base layer colors for each of the items in the scene. And then this week, the goal is to kind of fill in some of those details. Now, I have been pretty busy this week, so this is the first time, aside from me setting up this file in order to work on it. This is the first time I've actually looked at this picture all week, which is nice because I get a chance to look at it with fresh eyes, and I get a chance to look at it with you guys, right? So we're seeing it for the first time in a week together. So that's really nice. I have been working on other art projects and things like that. Also getting ready for the Memphis Comic Expo, which will be next Saturday and Sunday, October 26th and 27th. So if you are in the Memphis, Tennessee area and you like comic book conventions and things like that, pop culture events and things such as that, we'll be at the Renaissance Convention Center, I believe it's called, and that is in downtown Memphis, October 26th, 27th. And I will be there with tons of art. So last thing, I am also working in Clip Studio Paint. It is my digital program, a digital illustration program of choice. And I am working on a Huion tablet. So if you see me looking down, I am actively drawing on the screen. And one of these days, I'm going to show you guys what my setup looks like. But I'm actively drawing on the screen. I got my glove on. I got my stylus pen and things like that. So yeah, we're just going to get into it. So again, I hope you guys are having or had a great week. I hope that this next week is going to be awesome for you as well. I don't know yet. I know that we're going to be adding some some details to this picture, but again, I have not looked at this all week, so I don't know yet where I want to start. I'll probably start with the faces because faces are usually pretty easy for me to do. We'll start there, and then we'll just kind of work our way around as we go. All right. So I have been, I think a couple live streams ago, we talked a little bit about building your confidence. I structured it around being an artist just because art is such an integral part of, my life and the things that I do for a living and what I enjoyed. That, some of it was very art centric, but if you have not had a chance, I believe it was maybe 3 live streams ago that we talked about confidence, but it's been on my mind pretty heavily lately because I keep seeing people, specifically young artists, struggle with confidence, right? Or struggle with knowing what to create, when to create, what kinds of messages they want to send. And so this week, I kind of want to tackle the idea of finding your voice. Now, again, this is going to be somewhat art-centric because me finding my voice through life was very well connected with my art journey. So they kind of went hand in hand. But this will apply to anything, whether you're a writer, whether you're a singer, whether you are a tarot reader, whether you're a gardener, whatever it is that you do. Finding your voice, I think, gives you so much more power over what it is that you create, the things that you enjoy, and it helps to sort of create this atmosphere of joy, such as me, setting aside time to work on my dream project. It sort of works the same way. You kind of give yourself an opportunity to be happy, right? To be your authentic self. to express what it is that you want to express. But getting to that point can be a little bit of a challenge for a lot of people, and myself included. So let's go through. Hey Lee, so happy to see you. Hey girl. So I want to share with you guys a little bit of art history with Brittany Lewis, right? So I've been an artist, or I've been in the arts, I would say, my entire life, right? This is something that I've always done. This is something that I did so much of that I thought that everybody did it. I remember watching this documentary called, I think, 6 Feet to Stardom or something like that, but it was a documentary about background singers, and they were interviewing the singer by the name of Mary Clayton. And Mary Clayton was like, I sang so much I thought everybody did it. That's exactly how it was with me in art. I drew so much, I didn't really ever think much about it. It was what I did when I was happy. It was what I did when I was sad. It was what I did just to kill time in class. I drew on all the notebook paper that my mom would buy. I drew on everything, and I would copy things, right? So I would copy comics, and I would copy whatever I saw. I had like a Tasmanian devil keychain I used to draw a lot of. And so I would draw constantly. It was just something that I did, right? So it wasn't until I was 16, this was around 2002, that I had my very first art teacher, a Black art teacher. Now, I had been taking art the entire time, but again, I didn't think anything of it. I looked at art as just, or looked at drawing. I didn't even see it as art, right? I just saw it as me drawing and doodling and creating characters and copying comics and that kind of thing. I just saw that as something to sort of pass the time by, much like breathing, much like walking, much like playing sports or whatever, whatever it is that people do. I didn't think a whole lot of it. I didn't think I was anything special in it. It was just what I did. And so when I was about 16 in the 11th grade, I had a teacher by the name of Miss Owens. Miss Owens was my very first African American art teacher, and I've only had two throughout my entire career as an artist. I've only had two Black art teachers, and both of them had a pretty significant impact on my artistic journey and sort of the things that I decided to pursue as I moved forward, now calling myself an artist, right? So Miss Owens pretty much took me under her wing, and we had I took her class twice. So my school was a super small school, super small. So I graduated with 28 people. I was number 3. But graduated super small class. So the school didn't have a lot of funding. So where a lot of schools have AP classes and AP art and art 2, 3, and 4 and all of these different things, we only had art 1. So I took art 1 twice. Not because I failed the first time, but because I enjoyed it so much. And again, Miss Owens was pretty much nurturing me through the process of becoming an artist. So I didn't know before meeting her that was something that I could actually do. My mom, or not my mom, just sort of the environment that I was in, there were a few options. You were successful if you became a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, those sorts of things, or you could go into the military. But alternative, and I say alternative because art's everywhere, especially graphic design, but alternative career choices wasn't something that I considered because I didn't have access to those types of things and those types of thoughts. So Miss Owens helped me out a lot in that regard, and I've mentioned this before. I think even with her, because she was a Black art teacher and all of that, the idea was that in order for you to be successful, you have to kind of go into graphic design, because there was this idea that to be an artist, you would pretty much be a starving artist, right? Or most artists at that time weren't famous unless they had died, and then hey PL, and then they, their art and things like that became a lot more valuable. So we didn't necessarily have, even then, the access or the thought that you could be successful as an illustrator. It's, that kind of thing didn't exist in my world, right? So I remember going to my mom like, hey, Mom, I don't want to be a lawyer no more. Would you be upset if I did artwork? And I'm very, very thankful to have a super supportive family, because she was like, no, girl, this your life. You got to do what you want to do. So shout out to you, Mama, for that. And I went into graphic design. Now, through college, and getting sort of a formal education in the arts, in my experience, it was graphic design. But again, because I enjoyed drawing and I enjoyed painting and doing those sorts of things, I took more classes than just my base graphic design classes. I was in everything. I was in sculpting. I was in, different art history classes. I was in painting. I was in drawing. I was in, gesture drawing classes. And, I still go to different events and things like that where I can actually actively draw within a community of people who also draw. And so my idea was that, okay, I'm getting this education in graphic design so that I can, start this career as a graphic designer. But I also really enjoy painting, right? I also really enjoy having live models to draw and learning anatomy and perspective and all of these different things that later became very integral or very important to the art that I create today. But again, the focus was graphic design because, I was under the impression that that was the only sort of means of creating artwork. And so I didn't necessarily, even though I was taking a lot of those other creative classes, I wasn't necessarily focusing on my individual voice, right? So the message that I had or wanted to express in that art, just kind of painted what I liked. And I think that if you are on a mission to find your voice as an artist, that is the best way to go, right? Try everything. Try everything. Pay attention to the things that you like. Pay attention to the things that you're naturally drawn to. And eventually from that, you'll develop an artistic perspective, right? And this is, again, specifically for artists, but I think this applies for everything. Like if you're, trying to find your voice as an individual, and you feel like your life has been boring, so you don't have a unique perspective, just sort of lean into the things that you enjoy, right? Lean into the things that you are drawn to. Start focusing on trying out different things to see where you fit in different pockets of the world, right? What part of the universe, what cog do you play, right? What position do you play in this game called life, right? So I was in graphic design. I had went to, at that time, University of Tennessee, and I did okay. I wasn't great with it at first. I honestly, and I'm just gonna be honest with you, real honest. I think because graphic design is such a hugely diverse field in terms of what it means to design graphics and where that applies, and where graphic design falls in the world, that I didn't have a solid definition of what design was until I had transferred schools and gotten into a different design program. And then my understanding of the field, got a lot better, right? So I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just, that's my major, going to graphic design. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, that's awesome. You'll do this, that, you'll do well, and whatever the case is. But I didn't have an understanding of it. And fun fact, I actually failed. So at the University of Tennessee, the way it worked was that you had to go through this sort of preliminary program in order to move forward in the major, right? So you have to go through this, had to take this class, or in this case, it was two classes. They had to take two classes, and after that, you have a final critique, and then this group of instructors and professors will decide whether or not you should move on in graphic design, which I find funny because I don't think it's necessary to even have a degree to be a graphic designer. So I actually failed out of graphic design at my first attempt at the University of Tennessee. Failed out of it completely. Laid it on my face. And the reason was I didn't take the first class, which is a whole other story. But I did take the second class. I wasn't even in school at the time that the first class was going on. I was working, did an internship at Disney, came back, took the second class, and it was like, no, sis, it's not fair if we passed you if you didn't take the first one. So I failed out of it, right? Later transferred to University of Memphis, and I made it in their program and then went on to study and become a professional graphic designer. But throughout that, I don't think that there was ever a time when it was encouraged to learn who you are as a creative, right? Yes, you're learning the fundamentals. We also didn't learn a lot of the programming and things like that. I didn't get that education until I got into the corporate world. But again, you're sort of learning the basics and the principles and all of these different things to become a graphic professional designer. So there was no emphasis on individuality or any of that. It was this is the technique. We want to see how well you interpret the project based on this technique. And that was sort of the education in a nutshell, right? So fast forward, now I'm getting into digital art. I'm working as a professional designer. I'm still sort of creating paintings. At this time, I was doing a lot of acrylic paintings because acrylic is my favorite medium. Oil I really like, but it just takes too long to dry. So I'm creating paintings, start this YouTube channel 2013. I'm making a lot of art. In the process of making a lot of art, I'm just making it just to make it, right? I like was at the time was watching a lot of Walking Dead. I was watching making Walking Dead artwork. I would like, X-Men, I would draw Storm or, different characters and things like that. But it really didn't have a purpose, other than to say, hey, I like this particular whatever it was. It didn't necessarily have a message. It was, for the most part, it was fan art, aside from the art that I was doing for commissions and portraits and things like that. So I had gotten to a point, and I'm someone who I think is very serious about what it is that I do. I love learning to create. I love creating. I love pulling an idea out the sky and taking a blank canvas and making that idea manifest. I love that, right? That's my thing. But it wasn't until around 2018 that I had an interview with Black Canvas magazine, and the interviewer asked me, if someone was to look at your artwork, what message would they get? And I swear to goodness, I had absolutely no answer for this man. I was like, I don't know. And he wouldn't leave it at I don't know. It was one of them things that, like, even if I don't know something, I don't know something, right? But he was like, okay, well, think about it. And I'm like, man, I don't want to answer this question because I didn't have an answer for it. I did not have an answer. I didn't know. Right. And I think that was the thing that sort of triggered me to become much more introspective in the things that I create. Fast forward 5 years later, we're working on a big old self-portrait that I like to call the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. But that did something to me. I think what it did was it called to mind, or it sort of made me slow down, right? And think about, what is it that I want to say in the things that I'm creating, right? At the time, there was a lot of protesting going on. Just it's always a thing, right? It's always someone protesting about something. I didn't necessarily want to lean into that. I didn't necessarily want to lean into creating, I don't want to call it struggle art, but just art that dealt or focused on the struggle. I didn't feel that way. Definitely empathize and certainly fight a different fight, right? Certainly fight the good fight, but in a much different way. I just wanted to express or find a way to express who Brittany was or who Brittany is, right? And I had to figure that out. I actually had to take time to sit down and like, okay, what the heck is it that I want to create? And I had like a whole meltdown. I had a whole meltdown about it because I wasn't happy with what I was creating, right? I had been up to that point working towards doing things that would please other people, which we tend to do, right? That would meet the expectations of other people, and was afraid to sort of be myself through my artwork. I love sci-fi, right? I would paint different sci-fi characters and things like that, but I wasn't like leaning heavily into sci-fi work. I love witchy things. I love spooky things. I love the occult. I love, learning about different deities and, sacred geometry and all of these different mystical and magical things were things that I was drawn to, things that I was working in my personal and private life, but I was afraid to express that through my artwork. And again, I was on this mission to sort of find that purposefully introspective point of view, and thus I developed different things like that. So when you're finding your voice as an artist, you kind of have to sit down and ask yourself, what story do I want to tell? Who am I, right? Again, this helped me in my life because art is such a my life in art, it's the only constant that I've had over the 38 years that I've been alive. My earliest memory of drawing something, I think I was like 3, right? So I've been drawing my entire life. So for me, a lot of my self-expression is done through the artwork that I create. But at the time, before I, made the decision to be purposefully introspective, it was just like, okay, I think people will like, Big Trouble in Little China because that's my favorite movie. So I'm going to paint some Big Trouble in Little China artwork, or I'm going to paint some Batman artwork, or I'm going to paint some, Spider-Man, or whatever the case is, thinking that let me cater to a larger audience versus let me just paint what I want to see, right? Let me just paint with things that I like. And I think ever since I've done that, things have been a whole lot smoother. Now, something else that you guys will hear me say quite often is that there's an audience for everything. So before I sort of leaned heavily into, painting the things that I wanted to see, I would do little things, I think I did the Witches series. I started that 2017. and then I rendered them in 2018, right? I would draw like, Calypso from Pirates of the Caribbean, one of my favorite characters, who was like, awesome, very witchy. So I would do things like that, and just every little bit tidbits, right? But I wouldn't make that giant leap because I was afraid of what the audience that I had cultivated up to that point would say. But I wasn't being myself fully. So when you're finding your voice, you just kind of have to take that leap of faith that everything is going to be okay. And remember, again, there is an audience for everything. So sometimes, you'll lose people, but I would venture to say that those people probably didn't need to be there in the first place. You want to find people who relate to whatever it is that you're doing, but most importantly, you want to be happy with the art that you're creating. You want to be happy with the music you're creating. You want to be happy with the things that you're writing, building, and if you're a gardener, you want to be happy with the things that you're growing. And so once you do that and find that space, then everything sort of clicks and finds its place. Things will align. So fast forward, here we are. Creating again the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, which I always say is a self-portrait, because it encompasses so many of my own personal experiences through spirituality, through my love for the medium of tarot reading and divination in general. And so this is sort of my lane, right? And so if you're an artist, if you're an aspiring artist, or whatever it is that you're doing throughout your life, you sort of have to find your own lane and be okay with everybody not getting it. Okay? Sometimes you'll do things and people just won't get it. I was talking to my son not long ago where long time ago I did this painting challenge where I challenged myself to paint a picture every day for like 90 days. I think I made it through 10, and by then I was kind of overwhelmed. But I remember doing a blue Bob Dylan painting. And I remember my husband was like, "Why is you painting them blue?" And I was like, "Don't worry about it. I got it." He didn't see the vision, right? He didn't understand why I was painting this man blue. He didn't get it. But what ended up happening was that the painting came together very well, and it ended up selling. I ended up selling it maybe I think a week after I had completed it. And then that lady ended up selling it at auction, and she made big money on it. And so it ended up working out because I dared to take a chance on something that I believed in. Sometimes people aren't going to see it. Sometimes people aren't even going to agree with it, but it's neither here nor there, right? You have to find what makes you happy. You have to find and dare to dream and do things slightly different from what you are used to seeing in your immediate environment. The other part of that is that you also have to be comfortable with failing, right? So again, going back to this particular YouTube channel, I think when I looked recently, there were like 111 videos on this particular channel. Not all of that is good art. I would venture to say a lot of it is not good, but I didn't care. I was doing my best. I was painting again some of the things, even though a lot of it was fan art, it was stuff that I actually liked, right? But I was afraid to do, the thing that I really, really wanted to do. However, some of it's not good. Now I'm doing this comic convention next weekend. I think I started doing comic conventions in 2014. So it's been about 10 years since I started doing comic conventions. And I've made art consistently for comic conventions for 10 years. Oh, well, I'll say for 8 years, because I think the last couple years I hadn't, right? I went back to look at some of my old artwork from the conventions. They were horrible. They weren't good at all. But you couldn't tell me they weren't good at that time, right? You could not sit and tell me that I wasn't doing my thing when I was making all of that artwork. I remember I did a Batman picture, and I don't know if I have that as a digital painting or not, but I did this Batman picture, and I remember someone bought it, right? It was a guy who was cosplaying as Batman. And he was trying to like replicate the pose, but the pose was so off. that he couldn't situate his, legs to do what I had Batman doing. I failed. But in that failing, I still was able to build and cultivate an art audience. And, it was okay. You get better, you improve with time. So you cannot be afraid to fail when it comes to creating artwork. You guys sat and watched me 2 episodes ago, figure out how to draw, I think it was this face. with this one here, and I just couldn't get it for the life of me because I was under the pressure of doing it live. But I was able to, pull it off a little bit later once I was off live and, figure it out. So you have to be okay to fail. And so that sort of thing helps you to build your confidence as a creator, as an individual, because everybody's not going to see the vision that you see, and you're not going to have successes all of the time. But failing is probably one of the quickest ways to find success, especially if you can determine why you failed, right? So if I'm painting, I'll give you the example of drawing this lady's face. When I was replicating her face based on the structure of the guy with the white hair in this picture, I was trying to do it again under the pressure of being in live. But once I slowed down and sort of saw, okay, well, I'm failing because I'm placing the nose in the wrong place, or I'm having her eyebrow up too high. Let me zoom in so I can kind of see what angle his face is actually sitting and what angle his eyes are sitting. Once you kind of go through that, then you sort of learn and grow and push yourself beyond that, failure. So it's okay to fail. It's all right. Sometimes it's okay to we watch people do it publicly. If you can avoid that to save yourself, a little bit of the embarrassment of it, is that's all the better. But if not, then it's all good, right? So finding your voice as an artist is something I feel like comes sort of it does sometimes come sort of naturally, right? For me, it was something that I had to intentionally sit down and figure out. So I had to sit and say, okay, what is it that I want to express? Again, going back to making tons of fan art for 8 to 10 years or so, doing comic book conventions. And catering to a certain audience, it was super scary to show up at a comic book convention. I think it was 2021 or two, and most of the art that I had was from this deck, right? So people who were used to seeing me at the Memphis Comic Expo at that time were like, okay, well, where is Captain America? Where is this person that you normally have? Where are these pieces? And then to find that most of it was from a different genre altogether, was scary. It was a little nerve-wracking. But at the same time, that very first time that I stepped out and most of my art was from the tarot deck, I made the most money at a convention that I ever made. Right? So things tend to fall into place. So I see a lot of times where people are like, well, I don't know whether I should, cater to the algorithm. I don't know if I should, do it because people like sensationalism, or, that'll get me a bigger audience, and, all of these sorts of thoughts, which are valid thoughts. And I certainly understand thinking that way. But in the long haul, it's always better to just do what you like. It's so much more sustainable. Because then you don't have the pressure of, oh man, I gotta paint this, but I don't know how my audience that I didn't build all these years is going to take it. You ain't got to worry about that, right? You do the thing that you actually enjoy, that you actually love to do. The other part of that is finding a style, right? So I see a lot of younger artists sort of struggle with, well, my style doesn't look unique and identifiable, and whatever the case is. It is much more important, again, to find your voice, right? To describe or to figure out your unique form of expression and what it is that you're trying to express. But also, it's more important to actually develop basics. So one of the things that I can credit going to school and failing, because the first graphic design program that I was in, I actually failed in, right? So going through the process of failing sort of taught me a lot about shoot, you know what? I just lost my thought. It happens, right? But anyhow, going through the process of failing did something to teach me to be a little more confident in the work that I do. And it is, again, okay to fail. And I cleaned it. I just lost my thought. So I'm going to show you what I actually just did. So since I've been running my mouth and lost my thought. I have been working on the face of our male character in our Two of Wands. And just a gentle reminder, the Two of Wands is a card about making decisions and planning, right? And I should have planned what I was going to say, because I clean just was like, I'm just talking and reminiscing and this, that, the third, and forgot what I was going to say. I forgot where I was headed. But anyhow, it's all about planning and things like that. I am using this particular reference as my main reference to sort of drive the story in this particular card. I have my two characters in a library similar to the library of my Hierophant or Hierophant. I don't know how people pronounce it, but it is Hierophant for me. And I will show you guys what that looks like here in a bit. It is one of the major arcana cards that deals with conformity and most of the times religion, but that was one of the cards that I had a really, really hard time articulating because it was something I could not connect to. So what I did was I switched and pivoted the story into creating sort of a griot or a I want to say gatekeeper, but sort of a gatekeeper, someone who keeps the traditions and things like that alive. And he is standing in front of a gateway, the cosmic gateways, and he is in a library. So this picture is sort of an offshoot of that. All right. We'll get back to it as soon as I remember what it was I was going to say. Remember what it was I was going to say. I was cooking though. I was on the road. Life happens, right? But anyhow, yeah, so we're going to be using the color palette from this particular picture. This is one that I completed in 2021. So this is a few years old. And what I find really interesting going back and looking at the cards that I've completed over the years is how much artistic growth that I've had. Now, again, I've been an artist my entire life. I have been a digital artist since around 2006, 7, 8, somewhere in there. So I've had to learn a lot about being a digital artist. And so one of the things that I find super exciting, somewhat nerve-wracking, is that I can always tell the growth that I've had over the years as I continue to create and continue to grow and continue to work on this project. All right, so yeah, I am working on developing the face for this character. Who is our one of our main characters. Now, I do have an idea, and I'll share this with you. I shared this with my mom, so I'm going to share with you guys. Now, I have an idea of having the main character point to a map, but specifically a map of my hometown. I like to add little tidbits and pieces of myself in my pictures because, again, I look at the Cosmic Gateways Tarot as a 78-piece self-portrait. It tells a whole lot of things about me. One of the things that I found the most, I found really funny to me, because I say this a lot. This is definitely a self portrait. It encompasses many of my own spiritual experiences, many of my own ideas. Again, getting back to being purposefully introspective. This is the project where I am putting so much of me into these illustrations and into the books and things like that. But I remember someone coming to me and saying, "Hey, I just realized I could read you through these cards." And I was like, "Well, sure. That's sort of part of the that's sort of part of the process." So being purposefully introspective. So again, if you're finding your voice, you do want to be as true to you as you possibly can. Now I'm hoping I get back to that thought I had. But if we don't, we'll just keep rolling with it. So I'm happy to see you guys lead this. Thank you so much for saying happy Sunday to me. And PL, thank you so much as well. So if you're watching this live or if you're watching the replay, I really do appreciate you being here because you could be doing anything else on this Sunday afternoon. But you decided to be here with me as I talk about failure and somewhat failed live for you. It happens, right? You have to be okay with that. I blush a little bit. I might deflect a little bit, but we'll get back into it. So yeah, okay. You want to have your authentic perspective if you're going to be finding your voice, right? Oh, the style, right? So if you're wanting to find your style. I don't know if that's what I was talking about, but we're going to get off into it. So with your finding a style is very similar to having a unique handwriting. So again, when I was in school, there was really no push for people to find their individual expression. It was, here's a principle and we want you to learn the principle and create something, I guess somewhat in a style, but just sort of create something to interpret this principle. So when it came to developing a style, PL says you are such a positive influence. I appreciate that, PL. Thank you so much. So when it comes to developing your style, I know a lot of people sort of, especially younger artists, sort of lean into, well, my style isn't as recognizable as the next person's, but that's something that really develops over time and it changes, right? So I have so many different types of artwork, and I'll show you. Let me show you guys. I'm gonna show you the evolution of B. Lewis Arts. I have my YouTube channel here, so I'm gonna show you just a little bit of what that looks like, right? All right. So you guys have seen you've seen me develop these pictures or these paintings for the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. We've been watching this now since June 30th, right? But when I started And I'm going to just click on oldest just so you guys can see. I started, I think, 2013, right? And I was doing majority paintings in terms of acrylic paintings and things like that. But I also was doing a digital painting here or there. Again, some of this stuff is bad. Some of it ain't good. Some of it just isn't great, right? But I dared to just put it out there anyway. So as the years progressed, looking at the ink drawings is a really, really good indication of how much I grew and sort of how this style developed. But I have a style when it comes to acrylic paintings. I have a style when it comes to ink portraits. I have a style when it comes to my digital paintings. And a lot of that sort of developed with time, with practice, with confidence, with the willingness to fail and pick yourself back up and dust yourself off and try again. So I'll give you a really great example. Now, I think it was, I'm not really sure how long ago it was, but I did a picture of Storm from X-Men and it was okay. It was cool. This one right here. Yeah, right there. So I did this picture of Storm with X-Men. It was cool. I had never seen Storm with natural hair, and this was 10 years ago. And I was like, you know what? It would be real cool if Storm's hair was part of the clouds. Nothing wrong with the picture. It wasn't as good as the upgrade once I finally upgraded, but this was sort of how my digital art looked over the years, right? Fast forward a year later, or a few years later, I'm starting to improve a little bit. My show notes looks fantastic, right? I was doing space balls and I was doing, different places. And then we come over here to, what was it, 3 years later, and I'm improving how my storm looks, right? So it develops with time. All of this to me looks like it was made by the same person. And that's sort of how a style works. It's like your very unique handwriting, right? So you don't have to focus too much on, well, I need to maybe use this technique or I need to use this technique. But because as you grow as an artist, I would encourage you to try many different things until you find something that is strictly yours. Here are two different things right here. This is an acrylic painting of Isaiah Bradley, and then a Eartha Kitt, which is the shirt that I'm wearing now, an Eartha Kitt ink portrait. Though are two different mediums, but the eyes are exactly the same, right? The mouth of it is very similar. The way that I articulated the muscles and things in their neck look like they were done by the same artist. Now, if I were to draw these two pictures again, they may look very different, right? But you would probably see some tidbits of myself in this artwork. And so you can just kind of see how much better the art got over the years. So again, here we are. I'll show you this one. This is probably the I ain't gonna call it the worst, but it wasn't the greatest picture. This is from Naruto, which is one of my favorite animes, right? And so as we go on further, that digital art gets to looking a whole hell of a lot better. And again, it still looks like, even though these are different mediums, to me, it still looks like it's done by the same person. And so that's just sort of how it goes. And it'll change. So once I started doing the vector witches and things like that, those look completely different, right? But there are elements within those pieces that look like Brittany created them, right? So don't worry so much about developing your style or having something completely unique and, this is the expression of whoever you are, because it's going to look like that anyway, even if you feel like you don't have one. Because for the longest, I'd argued with you that I didn't have one. But it's not completely true. Again, this is very, very much like your handwriting, and it goes hand in hand with having a unique voice as a creative. Because as you begin to tell these stories, you'll start to use similar elements throughout your work that'll help carry that story or that message through. All right. All right. So it's auto saving right now. We're going to see if we can get back into his face. I don't know if I'm going to do a whole bunch of details in it right now. I'm sure I will flesh it out a whole lot better once this next week is over with, as I prepare for the Memphis Comic Expo. But we'll get around to it, right? All right. So that is my spiel a little bit on finding your sort of unique voice. And again, being okay to fail, being okay with making mistakes, because mistakes happen, and giving yourself grace throughout the process. Because I know for myself, it took me a long time to learn how to give myself grace, right? Because I'm like, man, I've been doing this my whole life. I still can't draw a tree, because we discussed this a while back where landscapes is something or an area of art that I am not the strongest in, right? Now we did a beautiful landscape with the Two of Swords, and I'm getting better. And one of these days I'll make a deliberate effort to like just study landscapes in, period. But for the time being, landscapes is probably one of the weakest elements in art that I, do. Portraits would be the absolute strongest. Landscapes are a little bit of the weakest, right? But being okay with, okay, this is an area that maybe I'm not great in. Let me give it my best effort, right? Let me do the best that I can. Let me sort of find the resources that will help me do a whole heck of a lot better, and just being all right with that. Learning how to ride the wave, right? And acknowledging the fact that you will grow and you will improve over time. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of practice. So be okay to fail. Be okay to tell your story. And if you're one of those types of people that say, well, I don't really have a whole lot going on, I ain't have, different experiences throughout my life, you're drawn to certain things, right? There's certain things that you actually like. There are certain things that you don't like. Lean into the things that you actually like and are passionate about. And if you're like, well, I don't know what I like, try everything. Try it all. Try it all with the intention of learning or trying to figure out what it is that you actually like. Don't just be trying it just to be trying it or doing different things just to do them. Actually be intentional about it. Say, okay, I'm going to go try this sculpting class because I really want to see if I like sculpting. Let me go to this pottery class, right? Go to the pottery class, determine if you like it. If you don't like it, cool. It's all right to try it, right? But if you love it, then that's something that you can lean more into. Or you can say, hey, I'm gonna try, learning how to do portraits, but I can't get the proportions of the face right to save my life. I want to try it, I don't like it, whatever. You at least tried it. And I will venture to say that you will learn something from that you can carry into the next thing that you go out and try to learn. It's okay, right? It's okay. Show yourself grace. Show yourself grace. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult because we live in this sort of instant gratification world, right? Where you order something from Amazon or Walmart and it's at your door the next day. Or, people are going viral for like some of the some things that they probably shouldn't be going viral for. People are finding a lot of success and things like that on social media. And maybe if it's not happening for you at a fast enough rate, that could be discouraging. But don't let it, right? Your walk is your walk, and your mission is to take from that what you can and what you can use to move forward and become a better person, a better artist, a better writer, a better gardener, whatever it is that you're doing, right? Just better overall. And then disregarding the things that are holding you back. You know what I mean? So when I was going through my little art crisis, I was trying to figure out who I was as an artist and as a person and what story I wanted to tell, right? It was very important for me to say, okay, well, this thing isn't working for me. Let me just let it go. Right? It's not making me happy to draw or to focus so much of my attention on fan art. Now, that's not to say that I won't be doing any fan art because I got some planned for this week for this convention. it just is what it is, right? But my major focus won't be there. My main focus will be doing something that actually makes me happy, right? Something that I actually want to see. And in doing that, you become so much freer in your expression. And it's okay. Everybody, again, is not going to get it. Everybody's not going to get it. And it's not going to be for everyone, right? Just like everything is not for you. So don't be afraid to go through those things. Don't be afraid to, experience bumps in the road. Don't be afraid to cry it out. Don't be afraid to cry it out. Just don't allow yourself to stay in that sort of woe is me state, right? You feel it? You accept whatever it is that's happening to you and then let it go, right? Especially if it's not serving you, especially if it's something that's sort of holding you back because, it's causing you to alter the decisions that you're making. If it's doing something like that, then just let it go. You don't have to hang on to it. And I would, I'm always of the mind that again, there's an audience for everyone, right? There's an audience for everybody, and that means that there is a tribe out there waiting for you. There's a group of people out there who's going to get it. There's a group of people out there waiting for you to do the thing that you want to do because they ain't never seen it before. Right? It's a message that I get quite a lot for this particular project. And again, I'm going into this thinking this is something that I actually want to see for myself because I hadn't seen it. Now, I'll go through the story with you guys, just in case you're new here and hadn't heard it. So, I had been a tarot reader for quite a long time. I got into tarot at 16 and I put it down shortly thereafter because I couldn't connect to the deck that I had. I had a little pocket sized Rider Waite Smith deck that I picked up at Spencer's, and I hid it in my closet. And my mom found it, and shout out to mom again because moms didn't judge me for having a tarot deck. I used to have all kinds of stuff when I was coming up. I would buy I had started working pretty early, and so I would buy books on alternative religions and different occult practices and things like that. So I guess for her this was like, this ain't nothing new. So anyhow, I had picked up this tarot deck at 16 and I could not connect to it. Fast forwarded some years later, and by that point, I had already been doing. I used to read what you call I think Umem and Thummim stones. They're sort of like runes, but I was sort of used to reading those stones, throwing bones, and so I was able to sort of divine different things. So I had gotten already the practice of divination, and that call for tarot kept came back. It was like, hey sis, you might want to pick us up again. So that I did, right? Or at least I attempted to. In this case, when I went sort of looking into finding a deck for myself, it was very, very important to me to have something that I felt like I could connect to. And I think that's very, very important when it comes to any of your spiritual tools. You want to be able to see some part of yourself in it, right? When it comes to the Rider Waite Smith deck, though I have come to appreciate that deck, I don't see myself in that world, right? And that goes for a lot of decks and oracles and things like that are out there on the market. I don't see the black girl that likes sci-fi and Afrofuturism and deities and spirit animals and nine-tailed foxes and these. I don't see that, right? So I decided to make it for myself. And that's sort of how it goes, right? You don't see something in the world rather than wait on someone else to do it. Sometimes you have to kind of take that leap and sort of make it for yourself. And that's sort of how we got to the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. Now, leading up to actually taking the leap to do the thing, right? It took me quite a bit of, time to work up the courage to do it. But that was sort of the gist of it. I wasn't seeing myself in the spiritual tools and things that were available at the time. Again, I started this project in 2019, so for all of those years I wasn't seeing myself. Now you have a lot more options and things like that, but what I was seeing through like different specifically black decks was a lot of struggle, right? Even if the intention wasn't to be a struggle sort of deck, it had a very heavy struggle energy. And that it was also something that I didn't necessarily want to lean into. So a lot of the images, and we'll get into some of that, especially as I start to develop the swords, because there's a lot of mental things that go on with the sword, the meanings of the sword cards. That's just sort of part of the process. But the overall feel of the deck that I wanted to create something that felt magical. I wanted to create something that felt empowering, because a lot of the readings that I was doing up to that point were geared towards helping the person who I was reading for do the thing that they really wanted to do, right? That was always my goal. So if there was something blocking you or something keeping you from achieving that particular goal, my goal was to, okay, well, let's ask some questions to help empower you to the next step, right? So that you can get past whatever it is that's holding you back. And so that's always been sort of the idea behind this deck. Let me be again purposefully introspective. And some of that isn't all rainbows and sunshines, because everybody's going through things, right? But let me be honest, right? Let me be honest through my work. Let me be honest through the types of images that I want to create to represent myself. And because I know I'm not an anomaly, right? I'm not powed out here or, some super special person. I know that there are going to be other people who will be able to connect to the same source of thoughts and feelings and who may not want to struggle that. So here we are. That's sort of how I got into the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, and also my why. Again, I just wanted to see something that I wanted to use, right? I wanted to develop something that 16-year-old me who picked up that first Rider Waite Smith would have loved, and it's something that 38-year-old me who might be looking for a new deck to add to my collection would also love. So a lot of what I do in this particular project is keep it in mind that everyone's not going to be a tarot veteran, right? So I want to be very sensitive and cognitive of people who may be picking up this deck, and this may be their very first one, right? So I want to develop images that are easy to read, easy to interpret, and then if not, have the resources available to help sort of guide that walk. So why it's coming with a guidebook, which is will have your sort of baseline meanings, but also why I'm developing the companion book, which will have all of the artist notes and all of the tidbits that I share in these live streams and all of my, notes and things like that for planning these cards. So that for the person who wants to like really dig into learning the Cosmic Gateways Tarot or tarot in general, they'll have those resources available, because going back to when I was 16, I didn't have that. Right? Which was why I had put it down so quick and fast. I remember looking at it like, what the hell am I looking at? I was shuffling, and I don't even think the deck was no bigger than this, so it didn't even come with like a guidebook. And at that time, you talking 2002. Of course, the internet was around, but there weren't a lot of resources online to help me learn to read and learning the nuances of tapping into your intuition and how to create your own database of meaning. None of that was available. None of that was a thing at that time. So there wasn't really a guide or something to sort of help me through the process of learning how to read tarot, right? Nowadays, it's a whole lot easier. You have online teachers. You got your Bitty Tarots and your Labyrinthos I think is developed by Tina Gong. I believe is her name, who has a whole app that can teach you the meanings. And you have so many more resources now available, but back then you did not. The only thing that I kept finding online was how to read the Celtic cross, and I was like, this don't tell me nothing. It tells you how to lay out the cards, but it doesn't necessarily tell me what it is that I'm doing, and what I'm tapping into as I ask these questions, and how to ask questions. What kind of questions to form, and what questions are best for this medium. None of that existed at that time. So that's been with me for a very long time. Again, I'm 38 years old. I bought my deck when I was 16. And so that sort of idea stuck with me for a long time. And again, once I got to the point where I was like, okay, this is something that I actually want to do. Then it was like, okay, why do I want to do it? Right. And then let's just do it. And sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes life is just a matter of making a decision. And I'm one who struggles with I struggle with making a decision, because I like to think things all the way through before I decide to do something. But sometimes that could be paralyzing in and of itself, because you can overthink things, right? So you don't want to overthink things. If there's something out there that you want to do, if there's something out there that you want to learn, just do it, right? Just take one step, right? Every day for 10 minutes, get on Google and ask a question about that thing that you want to do. All right. If it's, I want to start a business, now since Google is hooked up to AI and type it in your phone, it's going to give you an AI answer. Ask the dang computer, hey, how do I start a business? What's the first step to start a business, right? Learn about how to start a business. If you want to get into writing and maybe you want to publish, hey, what is the first thing I need to know about writing a book, right? If I want to hire someone to, illustrate my children's book, come over here, because I'll tell you how. got a few videos that'll help you out with hiring a graphic designer, illustrator, things like that. But just look it up, right? So every day you spend just a few minutes a day figuring out what it is that you want to do and how to get there. But you got to make a decision to do it. We can sit and dream, and one of these days I'm going to do this, and this. But until you actually put the feet on the ground, right, and take that first step, it's just you just talking. And I want you to do a little bit more than talking. Let me be the example, because again, you guys watch me lose my thought. You guys have watched me struggle with a um, drawing a face live, because I don't necessarily draw live. I will paint with you guys live, but I don't let you guys see the process of me figuring out angles and things like that. All of the decisions that I usually make before we get to the painting, you guys have watched me go through all of that. Right? So take me as an example, and I want you to be comfortable enough to bet on yourself. Right? Sometimes you got to bet on yourself, because here's the thing. Everybody's got a journey. There's always going to be stuff to do. especially as an adult. There are always going to be responsibilities. There's always going to be things that you have to take care of. There's always going to be something, right? So you have to set aside time. If it's just 10, 15 minutes a day, do it, right? All right. And if you want to come on here and talk to me about it, come on here and talk to me about it. I'd love to have you on. Now, I know Lee, I don't know if you still here. Sam and Lee, I'm hoping to have you guys on here soon. Hopefully next month sometime we'll be able to work that out. But if you're on here or if you have a project that you want to share, right? I'm all ears. We had Zajay Richardson in about a month or so ago, who's developing her own not tarot deck, it's an oracle. She's developing her own oracle deck. And so we had an opportunity to interview Zajay and learn so many awesome things. And she has her own podcast and things like that. So stuff like that, if you want to come on here and shoot the breeze with me and maybe get a little encouragement to do the thing that you want to do, please do. I'm open to that. And this is an it's an open invitation. So if you don't want to say it in the chat, that's cool. You can DM me on Instagram. It's probably the best place to find me if you're not already a part of the newsletter list. Now, if you are a part of the newsletter list, you can just hit reply on one of the newsletters. It'll come straight to my email. So I'll be able to get back to you if you ever just want to talk, right? One of the things that I've learned in my lifetime is that people like to talk to me and I like to listen. So if you just want to get on here and talk a little bit with me and share about your project, maybe you started a new YouTube channel and you want to promote your new YouTube channel, come on here and let me tell the people about your YouTube channel. Hey, Lee says she's excited to hang out with me again. Oh yes, okay. I ain't gonna read the rest of it, but sure, no problem. Take your time. So October for me is usually a super busy month. Like I said, we have the comic book convention. I have a couple projects and 2 birthdays I have to organize. So October is always busy. So I completely understand. But yeah, do that. Come on and talk to me. I want to hear from you. And I hope that things work out well for you. Even if you don't come on and talk to me, I want you to win, right? Because one of the other things that I found is sometimes finding our voice and being brave enough to share our voice is a battle of learning whether or not, or accepting the fact that you are also worthy, right? So some of that is tied to our self-worth. So if you feel like I'm just Brittany from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and oh man, who's gonna sit and watch me paint live? If I'm, stay with those thoughts and, don't feel like I'm worthy to share these different things, I'll kind of be stuck in a rut of, well, dang, I guess I won't move forward because nobody's gonna, whatever. There's people out there getting famous for far less talented than you are. I can assure you, right? We see it all the time. But those people are confident enough to go out there and do it anyway. And so you have to dig deep and you have to find that confidence within yourself that no matter what, right? No matter where there's 20 people watching me, no matter where there's it doesn't matter if there's 2 people watching me, I'm going to get on here and I'm going to do whatever it is that I want to do because I'm doing it for myself, right? I'm doing it because I enjoy it. I enjoy it because, whatever it is that makes you tick, whatever it is that makes you happy throughout that. But I think a lot of people struggle with finding their voice because they're afraid of being rejected by the public at large. It doesn't really matter. Again, there is an audience for everything, right? So I'm of the mind, and I say this a lot, that I am not an anomaly. So I know that if I want to see certain things in my artwork, then I know that there's going to be at least one person who also wants to see that thing, right? If it's just one person, it's just me and that one person, and we connecting and vibing on this one thing that I like, then that's cool, right? Sometimes it's more important to get in front of the right people than to be in front of everyone. Now I saw this with I was on Threads, and there was a lady who did a video where she shared the same footage. It was the same video twice, but on one of them she did like a negative sort of take on whatever was going on. It was a negative. It was just a negative video, right? She was complaining. I don't know what it was, but on the other one, she had something far more positive, and she was like, "Well, I don't know why it is that the negative one got more attention than the positive one, and I don't know what to do." The thing is, do what you want to do, right? If you want to lean into the positive, then lean into the positive. It's far more important to get in front of the right people, right, than it is to get in front of everybody. because with that comes the sort of certain energy. So if you're focusing on the negative, in her case, focusing on the negative, well, this negative thing is what's getting people to my page. So I'm always going to talk about negative. Guess what she's going to do? She's going to start creating more negative instances in her life, right? Not only that, but the people around her are going to be there for the negativity. And who wants that? Right? I would much rather have the peace. I would much rather have, again, the right sort of people around me than just to be appealing to everyone. And sort of that's one of the things that I have, just come to realize about being an artist. Now we've been at this for just about an hour, so I think we're going to call it here. I don't know if I made a whole lot of progress. Again, I'll probably work on this some more if I have time this week. If not, then we'll just pick back up next Sunday. But if you're watching this live or you're watching the replay, I really, really thoroughly appreciate you for being here. I hope I wasn't babbling because, like I said, I lost my thought, child. I ain't know what I was. I don't know what I was talking about to this moment. I don't know. But anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you like this video and would like to support me in this video, please be sure to hit the thumbs up. That helps me out a whole lot. I didn't ever understand that when people say hit the thumbs up, but what it does is it tells YouTube that you enjoyed it and you think other people will enjoy it as well. So please hit the thumbs up. You can reach out to me anytime. All of my information will be left down in the description below. And if you're feeling generous and want to buy me a coffee, there's a link for that as well. So I want to wish you guys a happy and prosperous week. And again, I hope you all enjoyed it. And thank you so much for watching. And until next time, peace.